Let's see. Should be plugged in here, right? Is the camera working?
No.
All right. Sorry. Huh.
Switch back to you again.
Oh, it did? It is back to me? Oh, it's on my camera.
Every time I start up.
Yeah.
Input. Hey, look at that. All right, we got everybody over? We got stragglers. All right, well, welcome everybody. Good to see everyone. We have a pretty good mix of folks who have been here and some new folks as well. So since we do have, I'd say about over half the crew is new, we'll take just about 15 minutes to run through kind of where we are and what we've been doing. So the group is called Nova Mean. So it's our Northern Virginia Mean group. And in 2014, we kind of did various speakers and had folks come in and talk about Mongo or Node or Angular. In 2015, we decided to try and start writing an app. And say the first half of the year, we talked about architecture and various things like that. And I think we're queued up to actually get started. But it's taken us a little while to get off the ground, which is not totally surprising with being a meetup group, and some of that's my lack of pushing it to begin. So we'll see if we can actually get some stuff going tonight. And so, but the whole premise is that going to meetup and hearing other people talk about it is helpful. It can be enlightening, but the way we really get good at things is we're actually doing something and doing whatever it is that we're doing. We're sharing ideas. We learn the most, and I know that's the way it is for me, and so that's what we're trying to do this year. And so we decided that we're going to be building something and learning and doing that kind of stuff, that instead of just kind of doing something that's just for the sake of learning, it'd be nice to try and do something good along the way too. So we found this organization called Hope. They're in Leesburg, and they look out for homeless kids. There's about 1,100 kids in Loudoun County, believe it or not, that qualify as homeless, don't have a parent or a guardian. And so these guys help them with just kind of, really just kind of being there for them. But they help them with clothing, food, with school supplies. They kind of integrate with a lot of guidance counselors at schools, how to plug them in various resources. and just do the best they can to kind of help for a lot of kids what's a really, really rough situation. So what we wanted to start off building for them was a mobile app that helped them manage their inventory. So they get tons of donations of clothing, of school supplies, of food, and they need to just manage the inventory. They've got a crew of a couple dozen volunteers that come in and help them manage and sort and throw out stuff that's not worth giving away. When food goes bad, they deal with that. They got to produce reports at the end of the year, or they're supposed to. It would be helpful if they could do that. So we're thinking a mobile app would be good, and we don't have to worry about personally identifiable information and stuff like that would be a little more sensitive. So we're starting out trying to build a simple inventory management app and then flushing it out to become something that would be really useful for them. So that's our goal for 2015. And so actually before I go to that, that's just kind of, I just wanted to give, that was good. That was only about 5 minutes. A quick recap in terms of what we're doing. Tonight we're gonna, we can review the architecture a little bit in terms of what we got, GitHub account, so the regulars kind of know what's going on there. But tonight we're really gonna work from the front end and work our way back. So we're gonna start with the mobile application piece of it, and we've checked some stuff into the GitHub app to get started there. We're creating some user stories. We're going to work on that. And then between now and next month when we get together, next month we'll focus more on Node Express routes and actually getting REST services to be able to feed that. But we're going to start by the UI piece and the actual mobile app. And so we'll get into that. But before we do that, I know there's a few folks around. I'd like to kind of open it for about 5 minutes if there's any kind of announcements. If anyone, I know some folks, do you want to say a few things about what you're doing? Sure. And if anybody else is in the same boat, wants to make a couple of announcements and share about what you're doing or what you might be looking for, then that's totally cool.
Okay. My name is Tom Long, and I work for the AACP, it's the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy. It's a nonprofit. It sets the standards for health professionals. I come from the gaming world, and they brought me on board to create a platform as a service, and we're looking to build a team. We're looking at Mean, but we're also looking at specifically Node technologies in the MongoDB, some of the frameworks. So I'm looking to hire talent, and so if there are people who are interested, I'm interested in talking to you and getting resumes and such.
Cool. So if you know someone that's interested, talk to Tom.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Anybody else like that? All right. All right, cool. All right. So in terms of diving into inventory management, this is what we looked at before. And so the key areas of the inventory management would be things like clothing, food, school supplies, and we talked about managing various attributes for different types of items. One interesting user story would be to be able to find, if you get an alert that says a particular food with a lot number needs to be recalled, how do you find if you've got any of that back in your extensive kitchen? But for the most part, we don't have very good requirements, and we're not going to get very good requirements. And so that's not atypical. I think that's common. So I think a good way, especially given an open source project, is to throw out something that's very simple and very high level and to show it to the folks over at Meetup, and then allow us to create incremental user stories. So we'd also like to do that. So we'd also like to do that, and we just refactor our way into something that's valuable. And I think that's going to be a more productive environment for us. So we've talked about a lot of things. I don't know. I can go on. So we talked about how we're going to manage the project, and we said we're going to use GitHub as a way to manage source code. So GitHub online repository. We talked about whether or not to use significant, like there are template frameworks out there like Mean.js that will use something that's a template generator called Yeoman. Can generate a whole application for you, and we said that we thought that was good as an example, but we didn't actually directly want to use that because then we don't learn as much, or it's too hard to get in there, but we might use that as a reference. So I know some folks have done that to look at it as a reference. And so then we did say, let's see what else. We will be using Mongo. We will be using Node. We're going to use Express for our REST routes. We will be using Angular since we're going to be developing a mobile application. Something that's been interesting that we've been doing here at Missouri for our mobile app. We've been looking at material design. Who's familiar with material design? So a couple folks. Was that about a third? So about half folks aren't familiar with material design. So if you go to material design and keep that, make it bigger. It's worth it's kind of leading into where we're going, which is really getting to Ionic. So I think it'll take another few minutes to talk about. So this is what Google came out with probably about a year and a half ago. Was not the last Google I/O, the Google I/O before that, and they really went hot and heavy on material design. And so it's a user experience. It deals with animation and motion. But if you bring up something like the inbox application or something, like any of the Google applications that you've got. Bigger. Yeah, see that? And so if we look at where's the mobile? Here we go. So things, just the layers and how all the different components work, being able to slide things, making something intuitive. Material design is an extensive bit of documentation from a graphic designer perspective in terms of how things should look. And so all of the Google apps are out there. If folks, who in here has iPhones and is an iOS user? Raise your hand, I want to see. Okay, and who's Android? So I'd say iOS has us by about a 60-40 split. So that's all right. So if you're in any of the Google apps, and then if you're in the Android side on the Play Store, everybody who develops apps for Android for the past 9 months, if you look at their updates in terms of what they're updating, a lot of times it's to provide material design and to make it conform to the material design look and feel. So it gives it a polish. And so it's interesting.
Sorry, yeah, how's that different from like Bootstrap?
So it's definitely different, and it gets into a lot of the, so go ahead.
Speaking of Bootstrap actually is themed to material design for certain swatches. Put it just in the Slack and now if you want to turn it on the screen.
Cool.
There's a Bootstrap paper which is material design for Bootstrap. So
Right.
Bootstrap provides basics, element, grid, things like that. And then you can theme it to be material design. So you can have
So I think that's a good, and there's some subtleties to go, but that's great. So Bootstrap kind of came out, 4 or 5 years ago, well before material design, which is a look and feel, which isn't a technology. It's kind of a philosophy. Things should look physical, like cars. They should slide. Animations. If I touch a button, it should have like some sort of ripple effect, so the user can see that I touched it. And animation should emanate from. So it's obvious to the user when I do something in one place that it's causing some effect somewhere in the application. So it's that kind of user experience type of information that's provided.
There's a live interactive demo on material Angular.
Cool. Yes. And so there are various implementations of material design. And so we've been using the Angular material quite extensively. And so there's things like Bootstrap, which have been around for a long time, and the out-of-the-box theme that Bootstrap uses is not Angular material. But since it's become so popular, you have things like Bootstrap, things like Ionic, the Ionic framework, who are trying to apply material design to their frameworks if you're interested in doing that. And you honestly have to be kind of going and see. So, but if you go to Angular material, and we are using this extensively for another project, and you can see all these little components, and you may kind of recognize a little bit of the look and feel, like the tab, toolbar, this little thing, not the toolbar, the speed dial. That kind of comes up from the bottom. A lot of times you have that plus, like if you're in Gmail and you click the plus and it comes up and you can create stuff, you're using the inbox app. So a lot of these are just components, and it's nice because these are ready-made components, and then you can come in here and you can do like an MD fab speed dial, and by just using that Angular element, you're able to get a lot of that functionality. You can see what the view would look like, which is the HTML, and here's the JavaScript, which would be your controller piece of that, and you can start using it. One of the other things we are finding that's kind of interesting, because we tried to use Angular material, these widgets with a Bootstrap background, and it can do that, but it's kind of interesting because if you come down here, can everybody see, is that big enough? Y'all follow me? What's that? Yes. So the biggest thing we found that is different is that Angular material is really relying on Flexbox. And so whereas UI Bootstrap is using their grid layout that's inherent in there. And Flexbox is actually a part of the new CSS spec, which kind of, for me, falls under HTML5. I don't know if CSS really falls under HTML5 in there, but it's a part of the CSS3 spec. That's right. And so it's a different way of laying things out, and it's kind of cool. Like if you come into this child alignment thing, you can kind of see, so like from an Angular perspective, this is, I'm doing layout row, left line, center, center. And if I get rid of that, and I just do, and you can see it's kind of moving those widgets. And if I just space around, it's kind of doing that. So instead of me trying to figure out a grid system and lay out components within a grid system, I can start to use some of these layouts for the Flexbox, and it will automatically have things expand.
I think fundamentally the Bootstrap, I use Bootstrap well, and I think it's geared more towards building like more responsive websites, and material more geared more towards web applications, because it's got like a touch and swipes and all these little controls that are probably geared more towards web apps. And
yes.
Bootstrap seems to have gotten the nature of just making a website that's responsive and maybe looks good on mobile, that doesn't function like an app.
Yes.
So, but yeah, definitely, material has a leg up on that. So.
Yeah.
I think this is also geared towards modern browsers, where Bootstrap will support older browsers.
There's a lot of change. Yeah.
And Flexbox absolutely will not.
What's that?
Flexbox won't.
It is, but I mean, if you look at the usage of older browsers now and the way Windows is so aggressively upgrading people from IE, there really are not anybody running IE 6 or 7 anymore unless you're kind of in these remote government installations.
That's my job.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, and so, but I would say for the vast majority of people, the government is so far behind because they don't auto-update. But if you go home to your Windows computer at home, maybe I went home and I was like, I haven't upgraded my Windows machine forever, and I went home and I was running IE9, and I was like, how did that happen? And it just does now. They just force it. So in terms of your broader consumer population, you're in pretty good shape with Flexbox. Yeah. What's that? There is a lot on 508. I actually haven't researched a lot of that in a while. But
a lot of influence on automatically get like a high contrast theme, and if Angular actually add a lot of that automatic. So
If you include that, it's the NGR.
Cool.
Still for the distinction of talking about NGR and what else you can do in the application.
Excellent. Good. So we went down this path, and we're actually developing another mobile app. One of the interesting things that we found, I'm not sure if anybody else has tried this, but we put Angular material and we wrapped it with Cordova in an app, and it is noticeably sluggish. And has anybody else tried taking Angular material and wrapping it in PhoneGap or Cordova or any of the other Cordova variants? No? Okay. And so we found it is sluggish. The Ionic framework is another set of widgets that have been around for a few years and are really designed, built on top of Angular. So in much the same way Angular material is built on top of Angular, but they've really been designed from the get-go to be really responsive and smooth. And they do just kind of work really nicely on the phone. So it's interesting because we're building another consumer app, but it really won't go live until probably January, February next year. And so we're making the bleeding edge decision. We're going to go Angular material anyway because we want the look and feel. And if you look at this Angular material, a lot of you probably know this, but if you come over here to GitHub, you can view the source of this project on GitHub. And so you can look at things like their commits. Where is it that we have our plan? issues, pull requests, pulse. Oh, come on. Where do I go to find when the upcoming release schedules is? My milestones. I'm looking for milestones. Issues, thank you. Thank you. So if you look at the milestones and you look at their closed milestones, they have a really good, so this is August 2014, this is November 2014, and they are almost once a month releasing a minor kind of release. And if you go in, you can click into all these issues that they've closed here, and frankly, it's probably the best open source project I've ever seen. There's a lot of Google people on it, so they're investing some serious money. Google is, they're paying staff of people to go crank through these. And so for a product that we're developing here, and if you look at a lot of these upcoming tickets that aren't closed, upcoming, a lot of them performance related, and Angular 2 will also address some more performance related type of things as well. So we're kind of going all on Angular material. I was thinking, and so we can definitely talk tonight, I was thinking that it might be better for the app that we're developing for mobile to go ahead and stick with Ionic, since it's just smooth, it's crisp, and we'll take a look at it in a minute. It's not quite as flashy, although you can style it as much as you want to, and there's probably good Ionic themes, but if you just look at the out-of-the-box styling that it comes with, it's kind of, but I just, in terms of a clean, responsive, easy to go, I thought that might be a better way to go, but I'm interested to know what other people think.
I think Ionic has like switches for it, so it has a certain look and feel on Android and another one on iOS.
That's right.
That comes out of the box. So to me, it's like the English too much, and you have to test it on all the different platforms.
Very
so, I think if we develop some custom, then we can go, maybe just one component at a time. But I think pretty much use Straddles, and there's lots of stories. I mean, the out-of-the-box experience for Ionic is pretty good.
I agree.
And it feels really native, so I don't want to vary too much. I just play the colors. So, yeah, definitely you mentioned the performance. I never tried putting Angular into a web, like a Chrome app or Cordova.
I've got it on my phone, so if anybody after the meeting wants to come over and take a look and play with it, feel free.
They're making a lot of improvements, like shout out on like what we asked doing, when I've been looking at that, and that should bring a tremendous performance, especially if you've got a lot of data binding going on. So,
yeah.
I wouldn't just, a lot of people are switching to React because of performance, and I'm like, well, Angular 2 is a lot more doing the same thing. So,
Totally agree. Yeah, and that's where we are as a group here. We're sticking with. And not that we would be opposed to other frameworks, we're trying to do one thing really well. So, that's hard to do. So, yeah.
I could also point out React is only currently offered iOS, so it wouldn't be an option for us to want to support it for iOS. Am I correct with that? Yeah, React Native is iOS.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know as much about React. But I think just in terms of being a front end for web, it would work anywhere.
Oh, yeah, React works anywhere. I'm talking about React Native.
Cool. Cool. All right. What other high-level stuff have I missed so far in terms of architecture? Some of the guys have been around that we should talk about. I was going to head down if everybody likes the Ionic path, I was going to start to head down that path. But what higher-level things that we talked about 2 months ago that we should review with anybody that's new have I not talked about?
I think we talked about cloud.
Yes. Yes. No, I was thinking that's open. So I definitely think we should go cloud. I'm more familiar with AWS, but I'd be happy to, if whatever the group wants to do, if the group wanted to do Azure instead of AWS, I'd be okay with that. Yeah, so AWS is kind of, from the perspective of learning in this meetup what you're most likely going to come across out in commercial industry, we should probably pick AWS. And I think probably more people here would know AWS than anything else. And I got to talk to the big boss and see if she'll.
I work with it.
That's so sweet.
That's
That's right.
I can probably help my manager.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah, we could keep it pretty low level because it looks like they're going to be using very much.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was talking about that we're going to experiment with having here is actually, well, it's mobile app, it's not an issue because you just said it's really just a node server and something for Mongo. And so, yeah, I'd be happy with using Dynamo too, but then I'd fit the mean Mongo moniker. So.
I haven't yet, I don't know how far you can go.
Well, we're going to experiment with that with the API gateway.
It's a project called Jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go somewhere.
You can, some people definitely view that land being it. So, especially with Amazon Echo. Yeah, it's like a lot of people are running their apps just using LabVIEW. So just when a command from Alexa comes in, triggers run the returns results, and it only builds on 5-minute increments.
Yeah, I think it'd be really fun for us. I mean, I would love it to have like a 45-minute talk one of these times, just kind of on a parallel, just to explore some of these newer AWS, which really fall under the enterprise full stack Java spectrum. I would suggest probably for our app here, we want to keep it plain vanilla mean, Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node for the purpose of learning that technology set. But 2016 is around the corner. So if we decided that we wanted to do something a little bit different in 2016, that could be totally cool.
The only thing we see as Angular is not making it to whatever.
I know.
So that's the only problem with AWS compared to.
It's not bad standing up an EC2 instance and installing, and it would be good for us. Yes. They do have a new, Mongo 3 came out with a new Mongo 3 service, and you can go in there like the RDS service and just say spin up an instance, but you're still, it's pretty close to RDS, I think, if you use Mongo's service there. So we will get there, and we need to get there in the next month or two so that we have something online to host that in. But what's that? Yeah, I mean, that makes it easiest. So DynamoDB would be the closest, but then you're not on Mongo, you're using a different SQL, and querying is quite a bit different, and Mongoose, I don't think, works against DynamoDB. So I think for the purposes of our name, we should stick with Mongo. But then comparing it then, after we get there and we move forward, comparing it with some of the other and pros and cons, I think, could be really enlightening and could be really powerful. So we'll stick with AWS, and we'll explore, see if we can't get a little bit of compute to make that easy. And I'm pretty sure I can get our president to help out a little bit too. But that would be nice because we obviously don't want to stick a nonprofit that's trying to help the kids. Having a bill pay for it, so we'll find a way to do that for them. Yeah, well, I mean, in any of those places, you can spin up a Mongo instance or Node instance is pretty cool too. So, all right, that was good. Anything else? That was helpful cloud. So we did talk about cloud. We will be going to cloud. We will be deploying from our GitHub, and we will set up continuous integration so that we are doing continuous integration and deployment there too. And so, but we need to get the basic apps so we can work at the local level for a little bit.
Stack view, like what kind of integration?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So we're using, what are we using? I'm blanking right now.
Travis?
No.
It's a cut. I was going to say code deploy. That's not what it is.
No, CodeShip.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
CodeShip IO. So it's pretty sweet. So we're using CodeShip, actually CodeShip.com now, but CodeShip does work. So hang on. Should do that when I'm recording online. Yeah, that's right.
One person.
Yeah, that's all right. If they can get it for them, good for them. So this is our CodeShip for the project we're using right now. And this is pretty cool. You can come in here and you can come in here, and basically the way this is set up, we're going against Bitbucket, which is like GitHub, but it's a Linuxians. And you come in and you basically configure your code ship to have client access to your GitHub repo. And whenever we do a build, or whenever we push a commit to our Bitbucket repo, it's automatically pulling out and it's building that and it's giving a screen and it's sending us emails if we don't have, if our build failed. And then on our QA and our dev branch, if it runs through everything cleanly, it automatically pushes to Elastic Beanstalk for us and pushes out a deployment. And that only takes a couple minutes. And so it's really nice. CodeShip took us, say, about an hour and a half to set up. And it was working really cleanly. No, it's not. You can run 100 builds. I think it's either 50 or 100 builds a month for free. So they have a pretty decent free tier. And so I'll have to see where we fit into that. And they're pretty nice to open source, and they're really nice guys. So I think if I tell them what we're doing and they know I use them on other projects, they may just give it to us for what we're doing. But for other folks that are doing projects, it's really nice. You can do Java this way too, and do Ruby and a lot of other projects, not just JavaScript. But it works really nice with an Elastic Beanstalk. For anybody who doesn't know, is an AWS service that will spin up your app servers for you, and it will scale them out for you. So it puts a load balancer in front, and you can configure instances, and you can say, I want to have at least 2 or 3 instances, and it will, if you get certain load thresholds, it'll automatically start spinning up more instances for you. And so it's a pretty cool service too. So we use that as well. Cool. That's good. Yeah, great. So we got continuous integration. And this, we don't have to go this way. CodeShip is just one example. It is nice because it took an hour and a half to do. So it's a great example of taking something and making it very easy and have a very powerful capability. Travis found a really cheap way to Travis.
That's free or
Yeah. Okay. But Travis CI is very popular. So I guess my suggestion would be tonight and for next month, we get some tickets up there, some stories that if whoever wants to can work, and we'll try and get the ball really rolling between now and next month and the UI piece. And then next month, if some people want to get started on the REST API ahead of time, that's fine. But then next month, we'll really focus on talking about Node, Express, and the REST API, and that'll kind of just naturally include Mongo. And then probably a month after that, we could really focus more on the CI, getting into the cloud and everything that. But for between now and then, we'll work locally in our local development environments and see if we can't get some momentum going. That'd be my suggestion. But other thoughts, we can definitely do differently. Yeah, there it is.
So yeah, I know, I don't want to go over the Ionic stuff, but I know that Ionic view that.
Yes, and we can definitely use that.
Yeah, I was thinking, we just add have one central account, and that account through the CI would build, and then it would deploy, and everyone else would just be beta testing.
Yes. Yes. And the quicker we can do that, and we go over and show the folks over at Mobile Hope, and we have some very basic stuff that I think they'll see some real stuff that start giving us much more detailed requirements that we can start working on then. So I think that would be good for that. All right, everybody good so far? All right, so let's talk Ionic a little bit. Eh? So you can go to ionicframework.com. Who's checked out Ionic Framework before? Raise your hands. If you've checked them out, raise your hands high. So not very many. Okay, so let's start. We'll go quickly. What have you used Ionic for?
Just tinkering.
Just tinkering? Okay.
I kind of want to see how quickly I could get helpful with
Cool.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Haven't touched sense, but
Sweet. All right. What have you been using on the front end for Angular? Have you been doing Angular other places? Or just
yeah. So a lot of options with
okay. Okay. Cool. Cool.
I haven't really done anything.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Who else? Anybody doing Ionic have it like in production or clients actually using that with Ionic? Not yet? Okay. Okay. Cool. Here's our opportunity. We'll all be able to answer yes to that, and then that's a distant future. So this is Ionic Framework to get started. and we can actually run through these steps really easily. And so if anybody wants to pull up a can you see that? I'm kind of funky with that. You can make that out of part, can't you? Yeah. And let's put, where's my Ionic app? Did I minimize it? Yeah, I did. Oh, it's because I have it maximized. There you go. It's amazing. So if anybody wants to install it, you can just do npm install -g. You need to have Cordova installed and then Ionic, and so that's just going to do both of them. A lot of folks, depending on how you have your npm set up, if you require root access for those directories, then you have to do sudo. So it depends. So but you can try npm install -g Cordova Ionic. I like not having root access to those directories.
Oh.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I think if you have issues with npm and sudo, you can use npm, just like
Yes, you could.
If you install an npm, it's kind of not to have an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, mobile.
Or if you install anything, you just got to go recursively change the directories to have the local user own, and then you're good. And then the directories also can't do malicious things too, because they're not running as root, which is a good thing to do.
You can also just change your prefix npm, which is a less intrusive word.
I don't know.
But
Couldn't.
it can cause other issues.
Yep. Brew is another good example. Brew would be a good one to do. So there are lots of different ways to skin this game cat. So these are good pizza conversations. We can have a table. What's the best, version manager for Node and npm? So, but you can run that, and then once you have that done, then you can come in and you can just type Ionic start, and then a test app. So whatever you want to, it's going to create it in this Node main folder. And then they've got a few different. They've got like a basic app that's a starter app. They have a tabs one. They have a what's the menu one called? Side menu. Thank you. Which is the one I was going to use. So run that. It always takes about 5 times as much time when you're in front of other people than it does when you're on your own. Okay, and so it gives you pretty nice help in terms of what you can do too at that point. So you can come in, we can just CD into that, and we're going to be able to run Ionic Serve, and you'll see we're looking at the application. You can install support for iOS or Android, and at that point you can build those environments, but you'll have to have the SDKs installed. We can also run this, they don't have the Ionic view. I think they've listed Ionic view here.
I think you have to push deploy it to.
Yeah, you do. With the view, which is basically like a cloud environment, and we can push it up there, and then other people can download. There's an Ionic app you can download, and you can get like a code, and then you can kind of preview an app that other people are doing. So that'll be a good way to build it. But so now we can just type Ionic serve, and that should go. Did I got to CD into it first? Yeah. And so this is a little mobile app, and I can make it a little smaller so it would be more right dimensions of the mobile app. It's got a little slider menu out here that's coming out, and it's got some nice animations that go cleanly. And they go really nicely on the phone too, which is a plus. And if we were here, and then I go. So So the way Ionic works, let's see if I can make this bigger. I could do plus. Plus in here. So Cordova creates a www directory that it wants at the root level. You can sort of read that. And so that's where most of your work is going to go. It's got, package.json, the typical node application would have, your Bower for anything you want to add into your Angular application. The config is the config file that's being used for, oops. Yeah. There we go. Bless you. So the config file is what Cordova uses for really configuring how it's going to run within the mobile application. There's a lot for like when you're building the application, it kind of gives you a post and a pre option to do various things. Like we're using it to copy over Angular services from our web application into our Cordova application, so that we have one copy of certain files. Platforms are going to be your iOS and Android. You can have plugins or various things to access the mobile capability. So if you want to access your camera or the location or something like that, then you're going to install a Cordova plugin, and there's Ionic. The CLI, we're using the command line interface here, this Ionic command line interface, but the Ionic command line interface is really just wrapping a Cordova CLI. And so it's doing a few things for its like cloud build environment, the view capability, but 90% of everything that the Ionic command line interface is doing is delegating to the Cordova CLI. And actually PhoneGap, which is Adobe's, is doing the same thing. So does everybody know the story of PhoneGap and Cordova? So PhoneGap came out, and it was really just, I forgot the guy's name who built it in the company. It was a small company, and it was meant to bridge the gap between the phone and mobile applications, assuming that eventually HTML5 would come around with their own elements, and HTML5 would support things like cameras and location and all that. And in fact, it has in many respects. And the PhoneGap, true to its name, is when HTML5 comes out with a spec that does something, they'll deprecate whatever they had for providing that capability. And so Adobe bought PhoneGap and then open sourced the project. So the open source version of that project was given to Apache. It's called Cordova. That's so nice. And so Apache does a few value-added things. The main thing they do is they give you a way of building the application in the cloud, so you don't have to. It's good if you're on a Windows environment and you want to build iOS. That's very hard to do on a Windows environment. So using Adobe Build, since it's in the cloud, they've got the SDK installed, and so it does that very well. And it can manage versions and kind of help you with enterprise development, but it's really around the build and deployment process to phones that helps. Ionic's interesting. They've got a similar kind of cloud, not as mature as PhoneGap, but then Ionic also brings all their components, which are very touch sensitive and all that kind of stuff as well. So, what else do we have to talk about? Anybody else that's looked at Cordova? Feel free to step in here. And
So there's also we use the Ripple emulator.
I have not.
So that you can install that for Chrome. It's a Chrome extension. Then when you run the app from it gives you that when you load the app, it's like edge to edge.
Right.
So there's Ionic has a labs feature, which is
It's called Ripple?
Yeah, it's a Ripple. So I think it's by you go to get no extensions. Makes it.
That's right. Ripple emulator?
Ripple emulator, yeah.
Cool.
It's in beta.
Okay.
So that's what it looks like. So it'll come up, it's a little nice little skin, and then you can fake things like GPS location.
Cool.
So if you run your, I think you can run the apps and turn it on, like with that, yeah. Enable. So you have to.
Oh, do I have to just reload
Yeah,
it?
just if you hit enable and then and then you have to say what you're using. And I would say
Cordova?
Cordova.
Cordova. Oh, interesting. And so then you can kind of mess with
You just
it.
zoom in and see you zoom that.
Yeah, and make it a little bit wider.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Kind of gives you a phone looking feel.
Yeah. So
Cool. So you can see here, we've got, just with all that, we've got our template of an application. We got that, it's got a menu that has a login, search, browse, and playlist. And so what I did is I took pretty much exactly this, because I wanted to walk us through what's here. You've got, I keep double clicking, just single click. So this is just your routes that we've got to start with that are Angular routes. And it's using UI router. I'm 95% sure they make it from that farm. Yeah, thank you. And then here's our single controller. It's got some controllers in here that's mainly handling that playlist type stuff. And here's our templates, our UI templates that are Angular templates that we're using. So what I did, let me do that, and shut this, shut that, and come over here, and put that, and go here. I'm going to run which I tied to our GitHub repository, and we'll get y'all's verdict on what we're doing here. So I just changed that, and I just changed this to inventory. And so right now, I just kind of pages there. But we can have clothing items, food items, and school supply items there. And so you have inventory, you got a login, search, and browse capability. So just very, taking what they had, I didn't want to do a lot. I just kind of wanted to, so I just shown you everything that I did to get where I am. And so this is all committed up to the GitHub repo. And so if you all do either clone the repo or get in and update it and just go to git pull if you've already been in there. And so if you go to github.com/NovaMean, should not be hard to figure out since we're the NovaMean group. There we are. And so it's kind of cool too, because this app then is built by, and we can add more committers as folks get in and decide that they want to really do a lot with this more than just kind of in the meetings. But we've got our mobile hope repo. And so it's got all the stuff in there for this initial Ionic application. And so you should be able to pull this. And then if you've got the Ionic CLI installed, just do an Ionic serve, and you should get the web to come up. And then under issues, we've got a few stories to work on. So just list clothing items, list school supplies, list food items, maybe do a filter or we're filtering some stuff. And so that's as far as I've taken it for now. I just wanted to do just enough to get us started. So maybe that's not enough to get us started, but maybe it is. So what do y'all think in terms of what are next steps?
It's running up, it's not running.
Did you do serve? You did Ionic serve? Okay, we'll take a look at it. That's interesting. I wonder if I didn't commit something. Okay, so we'll take a look at that.
That's straight up, that's straight up.
Did you see any of that? Oh, you did. Oh, but that's test tab.
What's that?
That's the one I made. Oh, the one you made.
I call it test tab. And I just, that was just wanting to get the
Okay, so we'll look at that in a minute. So if you folks want to go in and actually pull the latest and clone this repo and do an Ionic serve and see if you can get this one up, we can look at the one you're doing as well. And then I'd kind of throw it back onto the group in terms of feedback for what we've done so far and what you think we should do as next steps. Should we just take some stories and different folks can work on them from a UI perspective? I mean, one thing that will happen if we do that is people are going to start to do them different ways. And so we're going to need to communicate with each other. So we have the Slack that's out there, so people could be talking over Slack and maybe teaming up a little bit. For the
Branch?
what's that?
Are we-
So the way we would do this is with pull requests. So we'd still do it. So you would fork this repo when you're ready to work on it. Then you work on it locally. And then when you've got something, and I would encourage people to pair up and not try and do stuff on your own, but to pair up and do something. And when you've got something ready that you think should go back in, then just create a pull request against it. And what we've been doing here for teams that works really well is we say we just want two people, any two people that are actively developing on it, to review the code. And with these pull requests, it's great because you can see exactly all the changes that you've made. And Bitbucket's nice. I don't know if GitHub does the same thing, but you can have, when one person looks at it, they can hit approve and you see a little green checkbox. And so then we have a rule here that the second person to approve a particular pull request goes ahead and hits the merge button too. And you could probably lock that down, but we just, kind of gentleman's agreement, so we do it that way, and it's been working really well. And we're getting a lot more review of each other's code, and kind of, which really is partly about making sure code quality comes up, but it's probably more about helping us be consistent and see how each other codes and kind of learning from one another and having good side conversations about whether not to use single quotes or double quotes. Seems to be one of the biggest ones.
Style guys or anything involved along the lines.
I'm going to throw that back on the group. I'm not going to be the center of that. I would love for us to go through that conversation, and we could even have.
Is there like JCS or EXLab, all those things?
Awesome. You want to talk about that next month? Sure. That'd be awesome to hear. So, and it really, whatever works. And so, yeah, but I think that would be great for us to go through that kind of a conversation and come to consensus and how to use JS lint or hint or whatever, whatever the linkers are we want to use. That'd be excellent.
I think it might be productive to set up a policy where you can sign up for Slack, put in your email automatically, sends out an invite, somebody might know what that's called. Yeah, no, we have a Slack, but there's a website where you can put it in. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's I forget what it's called though. I see it 100 times.
If you guys can drive on doing that and let me know if you need anything, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
We could also set up a Trello board.
That came up once.
Yeah.
So what would we use that instead of using issues and pull requests or stories?
I think you could create stories and have a link for it.
Okay.
Because you could go over where the issue is, right? And once everything moved down,
Status.
yeah.
Sure.
How regular do you do status?
Well, I think in project, in project.
Yeah, we usually do. We're not doing Scrum. We said we're doing Kanban.
And then
What is? Is it? Okay. So whoever wants to get that going, that would be awesome. Get to talk a little bit.
I think it was last week in Ionic as well, that I need some graphics,
Yep.
logos, things like
Yep.
that. If somebody has any ideas for icons, things like that.
I could go by our graphic designer if anybody else does too. That would be awesome. That'd be cool. All right, so some folks so we're quite going into a little bit of a working mode here. So from 8 to 8:30 or 9, however long people want to stay. But if some folks want to kind of dig into what's gone here, and we'll talk about next steps. If you just want to get Ionic up and running, that's cool too. And we'll see if we can't get some sort of orchestration around tickets from what we've got right here with these stories to where people could pick them up. And I'd encourage people to pick them up in pairs. If you don't want to do anything between now and next month, that's fine. You're welcome to come back next month without having done anything in between. But if anybody wants to, if anybody would like to dive in and actually get some hands-on with some code, I think it'd be awesome if we kind of had some collaboration. I know some folks want to do that, so either's okay. No peer pressure.
Are we not on should work in the REST API right now? I'll just run in.
I would suggest we do. I mean, anybody can do any of that. but I would say if we start with the front end right now as a focus to get something that we're looking and maybe go show the mobile app folks, and then next meeting when we get together, really put the focus now on the back end of getting the REST API up and running. This is a way of focusing on areas to get some momentum going. But if folks want to start on the REST API too, who did REST API? Somebody, you submitted some REST, and that looked pretty good. So.
No idea.
No, I looked a little bit and I thought it looked pretty good. So if you want, if we sync up a little bit, we'll definitely get to it next month. But if anybody wants to continue to push a little bit harder. Yeah. But definitely, if we start doing the front end, and so if you're listing categories and you had categories of listing items, if you want to have a repository, we've already got a repo there that's got some express routes there that's doing some. By all means, there's no. That'd certainly be fine to do that too. Okay. All right, good.
Well, one, I went to the Meetup, so it is rough, but then it's the server, my local,
You'll be outside or?
But this is the thing where I'm wondering,
So this is great. I'm in Herndon. Yeah. So I'm on a couple of So there's not a lot of node going on in Amazon. There's not a lot of it's all Java, a lot of C++. Trying to bring nodes there by year. So like there's a couple of divisions using Node that we run on. They're using Node, exciting stuff, but I have to use Ruby.
Well, we built a whole department of data in running AWS for department of data. That's what the Beanstalk is.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, there you go.
Where? Do. What are we gonna do?
I'm trying. Internally, just slow. Yeah.
Or server blocks.
Every time I
So and this is nice. They've got these like tabs, and these tabs are interesting. If you actually build it for iOS, it'll be down on bottom. But if you build it, you'll put it in right? You put them on. So the tracks to do something that are more Nova Dev. What the platform you use is the application. Yes. Yeah. In fact, you installed Cordova to get the eye on this. And so it's not using a lot of Cordova just in this view mode. It's pretty much most of this particular app at this point. But if you go through the build process and share it, then that's what we're using Cordova. And there's probably ways in here to test that you're on the phone. But yeah, if you look at the
Status, which is where we started. There's chat, there's account. It's different than what he had.
Yeah, so I actually
So I need to delete the project, so I need to get out of the house. Oh, that's recursive.
Recursive force.
And then the name of the file.
Right.
And now MK directory. Ooh, that's where I made it.
you need to bring the node stickers in if you want to use stickers.
Oh, okay.
Right. It says strongly with one too. The strong is small. And then
Yeah, side don't give So it's like, no,
So actually, it's a job of
So I was the global level design manager, which is the number one.
Does that mean careers in
No, I was the more global level design. So what I did was I traveled around the globe to all the studios and directed with a like it's gonna get simulation industry.
We are just hanging out now, so if you get older, so don't be